Welcome to ED 457. We're talking about writing across the curriculum. This is part 2. So we left off talking about the reader response journals. So that's just one type of journals, and journals are a really useful tool to use in the classroom to get students writing in any content area. So this idea of writing to learn, to process their thoughts, to go a little bit deeper about the material that they are learning through the class activities or through what they're reading in class or related to the content. So a double entry journal is another type of journal that students can keep. And so when you're thinking about journals too, you could have students have one journal, and depending on what the topic is or what you want to do that day or that week, you could have them do these different styles of journal prompts or activities all in this one place for writing. So you may want to collect that periodically, but you can also, you can just have students keep that one area in their notebook, their binder, or have a separate notebook that they use for a lot of these writing or journaling activities. So a double entry journal, they essentially just divide that journal page into two parts. So they can fold it, they can draw a line. In the left-hand column, they would write quotes or notes from their reading. So this is a little bit different because you don't necessarily give them a direct prompt, but they're pulling out the material or the notes from their reading, and then in the column next to it, they would write their response or reaction to the information that they've written in the first column. So just a different type of reader response journal, but generally it's just almost kind of like say mean matter, right? So this is what it says, and then they're writing their thoughts about it, or why they think it's important, why they pulled that particular piece out. So learning logs are a little bit more of a kind of free write type journal again, and a lot of times what you do with the learning log is they can respond to those questions, or you can just give them kind of some of those more general prompts. But these are journals in which the students reflect on the learning experiences that they've just taken part in. And sorry about that, I accidentally hit pause on the recording. So you can give them questions about the learning or about the content. It's kind of more of a reflection type piece. Kind of how well they understood the lesson is a good prompt for them. You can ask them to make connections between what they've just learned and their own lives. They can talk about how interested they are in this particular content, but a little more of a free write and a little more focused on not as much of the comprehension piece, but a reflection on the actual learning itself. And then we have entrance and exit slips. And so those are pretty easy to put in to your class as a routine. Entrance slips are a great way to start off your lessons. It's a good routine that you can have. Students know when they come in, there's going to be that prompt. And they know that when they come in, they get their stuff ready, and they just start writing until either the bell rings or until your timer goes off, whatever that is. But really, an entrance or an exit slip are just those short written responses from students that are either going to happen at the beginning of the class or the end of the class. So they shouldn't really take any more than 3 to 5 minutes. 5 minutes is kind of the max end. And these, depending on whether you're using them when they come in or when they leave, you're looking for your prompt they should be able to demonstrate that they understand or they remember the learning, or that they can do something with that learning within that 3 to 5 minute period. So if you use an entrance slip, you can use it kind of in a bunch of different ways, but one way would be to ask them a question based on the material from the previous day or week and get them to bring that to the front of their mind. Or you can use it as more of a free write, pre-write, in terms of trying to figure out if what prior knowledge they have before you're going to start a lesson so related to that day's content. So you can do those either way. And generally the exit slip would be where you ask students to do some type of summary of their learning. So ideas, if you're, what are the 3 most important things you learned in this class period? What confuses you about the material? What may have confused about what we already covered, questions that they have. So it's just kind of a quick information piece, but again, gives them that opportunity to write. All right. So those were just a few that I picked out of your chapter because I think those are very easy to implement. Don't really take a ton of prep time on the teacher's part except for developing those prompts that are related to the content. And so you have that resource a few slides back of the different charts, different verbs that you want to use when you're writing that prompt based on the task that you would like them to complete. So for this, now that you've read this chapter and you've listened to this piece, you do have a writing lesson due. And so that writing lesson should look like a regular lesson that you would teach. So kind of the way you developed a lesson and then you're going to highlight SDI strategies, what you're going to do for this one is think about some content that you're going to teach and then where can you give them an opportunity to write during that lesson in a meaningful way. So utilizing one of the writing to learn strategies. So you can use one of the ones that I talked about here, or you could use one of the ones that you read about in your chapter. But they give you quite a few examples in the chapter of different strategies and activities that you could use. So with that, go ahead and take a look at the rest of the resources that are posted in this module for writing across the curriculum.